I didn't think it was as big of a deal as other, or as ingenious as some of the analytics, all the sportscaster like made it seem. I mean, at the end of the day, they still had to get rid of the ball 15 to 30 seconds later. But I just thought it was funny that the Bill Belichick rule: don't cheat.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, he's always looking for the loophole, and you can't really blame him for that.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Well,
So what do you got?
what have I got? Well, so I want to ask you, have you heard of this guy? He's a cornerback out of the University of Montreal, okay, in Canada, and his name is Marc-Antoine Dequoy. Does that ring a bell to you at all?
No, but it sounds very French and French Canadian to
Yeah.
me.
So let me tell you a little bit about this guy. So, he's an undrafted free agent out of the University of Montreal. He just started to learn English this last year, so he's a native French speaker. He's French Canadian. But as is pretty standard, he was not invited to the NFL Combine, being from a Canadian university. He was, however, one of two Canadian players invited to the East-West Shrine Bowl last year, which I think is where the Packers kind of first got their first glimpse of this guy. Anyways, he's a cornerback. I think he played safety mostly in college. Let me read you some of these numbers from his pro day. Okay, he
Okay.
ran he ran a 4.35 40-yard dash.
Okay.
Had he been at the combine, that would have been tied for third best overall at the 2020 combine. He had a 37-inch vertical, which would have been tied for fourth among cornerbacks at the 2020 combine. He had a 10-foot, 8-inch broad jump, which would have been tied for sixth, I think, or fifth among cornerbacks at the 2020 combine. And his three cone drill, he ran a 6.65 second three cone drill, which would have been the best time at the 2020 combine this last year. So he he would have dominated that. But basically, every single for the most part, every measurable drill or important measurable drill for cornerbacks and safeties, he would have been top five for sure in all of those categories. Um, so you're talking about an insanely athletic guy, and I just thought that was super interesting. The Packers, picked him up. They want him to come to camp and try to make this team. But I think he's kind of I guess if you're looking for a Kumaro in 2020, he's kind of the guy that you probably want to follow and cheer along because his story is so unique. It'll just be a heck of a battle, but it'll be a lot of fun to watch him and see if he's able to make this 2020 Packers roster.
Hell yeah. And he better be. God, that'd be so cool. I had not heard this at all. I had not seen anything about that. That is so. Uh, we're getting ripped on our draft, as we've talked about too many times on this podcast, and to pull off something like this and have him make it and kind of be that dark horse success story, especially if it happened kind of quick, would be awesome.
Yeah,
I'd love it.
it would
He'd be
be
a fan favorite immediately.
he's immediately going to be a fan favorite. But I'm guessing that if he makes the squad, he's going to probably be on the practice squad. They've got him listed as a cornerback, so they're going to want him there. But yeah, it'll be so fun to watch him compete just with his kind of raw athleticism and his speed. Here's another interesting stat about this guy. So he had 12 interceptions in his career. 6 of those he returned for touchdowns. So he returned.
Does it say his yardage anywhere there? I'm interested to see where they were on the field, but that's God. He's 50% returning them for 6.
Yeah, which is insane. Again, it's the Canadian University League, so it's not it's not the NCAA, it's not the Big Ten, it's not the SEC or anything like that. But he still has all the measurables. He's got the ball hawking ability. And it seems like he's just a really instinctual football player. So again, it'll be fun to watch him, and I will definitely be rooting for him this offseason.
For sure. And I think you nailed it. I mean, the fact that he did so well at the combine, the virtual combine, I guess then. Those numbers obviously don't mean he's going to be a great player, but a lot of times those numbers mean he's going to be a solid player, or at least a player that can hold his own. So that's exciting. Yeah, that's something to watch that I had not known about.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on him and watch as his story unfolds. But the only other thing I wanted to talk about really quick was, we discussed Aaron Rodgers' press conference or, press call on our last episode. And one thing I forgot to mention was that during that call, there was somebody on that line was unmuted. You could hear, their phone making noises or, strange things on their computer. I don't know what they were. It almost sounded like somebody was cracking a beer right in the microphone. And at one point, Aaron Rodgers had to stop and say, "Hey, you guys got to mute your line." And I just don't understand how in this day and age you don't. That's not the first thing you do, especially when you're on a call with only like 25, 30 people, and Aaron Rodgers is on the other line. Like, how are you not muting your? How is that not the first thing you do? I just don't understand. Explain that to me.
God, you're right. In this day and age, even before the current pandemic we're in now, and I would say 90% of us have um, have had web calls or more conference calls than they typically do in their life. And just in this era of COVID, we're recording this at the very end of May 29th. You need to know how to mute your GD mic on your computer and your phone. I mean, it's God. I mean, we probably all have that one guy, that one person at work who does that. But you're right, to do that on a broadcasted NFL conference call is just. And the guy never realized it. Aaron called out the person, and it never stopped.
No, and so
Right?
it's like that person is obviously not paying attention. That's the thing that frustrates me. It's like you're talking to, one of the greatest all time. Like, show some respect, mute your line, just have some self-awareness. Like, I just don't get it. It frustrates me to no end.
Right. Right. Well, this isn't really a this is a decent segue. It's not really a headline, but just earlier today, actually, my dad sent me a YouTube clip of the herd, Colin, um, and he was kind of talking about teams that he thought would go to the Super Bowl, teams kind of on the bubble, and he didn't have the Packers in that top 12 teams that he thought had an outside chance. He called it his core teams that he thought could go to the Super Bowl. Then he had like 4 to 6 teams that he thought had bubble chances. Now he didn't have any of the NFC North in that list, but before we talk about that, the fact that this one person didn't happen to have the Packers on their Super Bowl list, he was pulling it from an ESPN analytic power ranking. And he did specifically talk about the Packers because, as you just mentioned, we still have one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Even if you buy the notion that the last 2 years statistically is a downward trend, I personally think there are slightly more anomalies than anything else, just because of injuries and new offenses and stuff like that. But even if you believe that, this ESPN analytic ranking, had the Green Bay Packers smack dab in the middle, and as Colin said on his radio show, one spot above the Chicago Bears, who currently do not know who their starting quarterback is going to be.
What?
And yes, and they basically put it all on the fact that we didn't add to our team, which is something we've talked a lot about here in our show, and the fact that this notion that we're a bad 13-3 team last year, we're a 9-7 team hiding as a 19-3 team, which you can make arguments for and against and all that stuff. But I already heard your initial gut reaction of what? But what I mean, do you buy some of these things that are just basically saying, yeah, the Packers are kind of with Aaron Rodgers at the helm, just kind of mediocre, and they need something splashy in order to regain the control? Or I mean, are you scared yet? Or I guess what's your reaction to that?
Man, well, first of all, last time I checked, if you go to Wikipedia and you look for, Vince Lombardi Trophy winners, you look for Super Bowl champions, there's not an asterisk next to the winner of that trophy saying, yeah, they weren't really a strong Super Bowl champion. You know what I mean? So I don't understand that
Yeah,
argument. Well, I shouldn't say that. I understand people saying, "Oh, you're a bad 13-3 team." It's like, okay, well, at the end of the day, you're still 13-3. Yeah, there were some anomalies. We were very healthy. We won some close games that, you could maybe argue that a call here and there, they would have gone another way. But at the end of the day, if you're winning, that's really all that matters. It doesn't matter how you win. It doesn't matter what it looks like. At the end of the day, that's the only stat that really counts. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And the fact that they've got us, you said, smack in the middle. So, um, where does that put us? 16, 17, one spot against, I'm sorry, one spot above the Bears. You've got to be kidding me. I
yeah.
mean, I you know, barring some
They
really
got
significant injuries, I would be very surprised if the Packers are not in the playoff picture this year.
yeah. I agree. I agree with that. I mean, the argument I would make for these people saying this stuff is the proof of us being a bad 13-3 team is how we got destroyed in the NFC Championship game by a team that we knew what they were going to do. So that does put some pause, in this. What I would say to counteract that is, hey man, this is the second year of a new offense. We got Devontae Adams hopefully back at full strength all year round. I fully expect us to go toe to toe with every team that is considered the favorite this year. But yeah, I mean, just there's not a lot of news headlines right now that are favorable to the Packers doing much this year. The last headline I'll see, I'll keep it really short because it's on the same vein. Um, Obviously, this is something that everyone is thinking about right now, but the odds just came out for the 2020 Coach of the Year, who Vegas thought was gonna win that, and obviously that's kind of a whatever betting line, but it is indicative to what Vegas thinks each of these teams is going to do because in theory, Coach of the Year is going to at least make the playoffs, maybe win a Super Bowl. LaFleur again, bottom third of with his odds of winning Coach of the Year with a 13-3 Aaron Rodgers coming back to him.
Huh. Yeah, that to me it makes less sense because yeah, this is his second year as the head coach. The first year, is always difficult for a brand new head coach. And last time I checked, I don't think any other first year head coach made the playoffs last year. And the fact that he's in the bottom third, that doesn't make any sense to me. But you know, again, I say this like that it's all speculative. It doesn't really matter. I think we
Yep.
play better as an organization as the underdog anyway. So yeah, keep it coming. The Packers aren't going to make the
Yep.
playoffs. The
Love it.
Packers are no good. Matt LaFleur's not going to be a good coach. Bring him on. That's what I say.
For sure. Before we end the episode, can you guess who the top two coaches odds wise are going to be 2020 Coach of the Year?
Top
One's
two.
close to home, kinda.
Hmm.
We know him well. The new Dallas Cowboys coach,
Oh, okay. So Mike McCarthy. Interesting.
Mike McCarthy, which I think is a pretty good bet. They got a lot of weapons on that team with no direction last year. A Super Bowl winning coach. I like it. The other one I thought was very interesting. He is currently, I'll give you a hint, without his favorite quarterback for the last however 20 years. And he is Bill Belichick.
Yeah, Bill Belichick. That was going to be my next guest. Otherwise, is Bruce Arians the Tampa Bay head coach? Because that would be my, whoever has Tom Brady would have been my next guess.
I think he's number three.
Very good. Well, I definitely think Matt LaFleur should be higher on that list, but I can't really argue with Belichick. I'm not sure I agree with McCarthy, but I'm eager to watch how he does in Dallas as well.
I mean, what And what a ridiculous thing to bet on. I think it is kind of cool to look at. I mean, what else are we doing right now in this time of no sports? I mean, what else am I going to look at to fill that need? But